That's like the origin for the photo of this podcast was when we were at a one of the Marine Corps balls. It's this big fancy event, and everyone's waiting in line because you get a free photo. It'd normally be like, some guy in his uniform with his wife, in a fancy dress. But me and Nick didn't have a date or anything. We were both single guys back then, and so we wanted to do the Step Brothers photo. We wait in this line for God knows how long, and we finally get up there, and this guy's like, "Hey, do you want me to just use your phone?" And we're like, "What?" Like he had this professional camera, but it ended up being like just the same quality thing, like on the iPhone, and we
He
felt
almost
so.
didn't do it at first. He was kind of half pissed that we even attempted to. All these people are like trying to take these serious photos.
Yeah,
We come up a couple beers deep. We're like, "You ever seen Step Brothers?"
yeah, I do. Yeah, now that I'm thinking back, he was kind of fired up about it. He didn't. He gave some pushback. I think that's why he just did it on the phone.
Yeah,
He's like, I'm not wasting my fucking
Yeah, right.
$1,000 camera on these two idiots.
For
But still,
sure.
like the picture turned out just fine. Like you can
Oh,
get
it's
great.
iconic. Yeah, it's iconic.
But yeah, man, we're happy you're healthy. We're happy you're back,
Yeah.
and we want to get back into, I guess, where we kind of left off. We were talking through your college days, but I don't know if you want to hit on anything more with that, or talking about what it was like kind of jumping into the workforce after that.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've covered, college years were fun. It's almost, God, I'm getting so damn old now, you know. I don't know if you guys feel that. I feel like sometimes, like I'm 32 now. I won't turn 33 till next July, so I got some time left in this age. But man, thinking back to college years is almost tough. It's like it's truly becoming a distant memory,
dude.
graduating. I think I was 21 when I graduated,
I
or
feel that.
22.
I think I'm on the cusp of a midlife crisis as we speak.
Yeah,
That's how
that's
this
great.
podcast started.
Great place to be. No, I don't think so. I think like,
My last dream.
work's been more of my, most recent part of life. So that's probably the most important place to start. But yeah, college years were fun, man. I know we talked just about like all the different experiences and all the things that bring you to make certain decisions and go certain places, all to end up where you are today. So yeah, I don't think I have much more on that front. I'm 2 months in to my newest job, which has been really fun. So interesting part of the year to obviously start. Like you have the holidays, you have like
Yeah.
the pace of play really is like crawling right now. But and there's good and bad to that. I think like when you start a new job, you're a little like amped up, you're energized, you want to get
Yeah,
out there, and then everyone else is like, hold the phone, brother. We've been working, all of 2024. It's time to enjoy Thanksgiving, enjoy the holidays, kind of kick the feet up.
yeah. It's got
Um,
to be a weird position to be in because yeah, you come into a job
yeah.
every time. Exactly, you're right. You're all jacked up, motivated, and then
hmm
have everybody be like, in that kind of mood where they're like, oh yeah, Thanksgiving's right around the corner, kind of halfway checked out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I think anytime you start something new, you're like, all right, I want to show up and like do good work right away. Right. I think that's like just a
Right.
very natural thing to go through. But yeah, even my boss and I were talking, and I was like, yeah, if there's anything I can work on in the next 2 weeks, he's like, I couldn't make up an assignment for you to work on, especially this coming week. We're 3 days out of Christmas, and
Right.
um, he's like, go enjoy it, man. Like, there's nothing going on. You're gonna be plenty busy in the future.
Right.
Try to enjoy these moments. And he's like, spend time with family. He's like, if you can travel and do some other things, he's like, focus on that and get that done. But
That's
yeah,
awesome.
it's been a good start. Great crew. So I'm working at a place called Cargo now. Cargo with a K. It's an interesting place because I obviously worked at some pretty big, giant tech companies. I was at Meta before, and then just prior to this job, I was at Google for a little bit over 2 years, and now I'm at a smaller private company. So versus like the big public trading giants, and then now going to like a smaller practice. It's like 700 people roughly at the company. But what I was seeking out seemingly is there. So over the past 2 months, I was looking for something a little more familial, be a little bit closer with my team, a little closer and a little more freedom when it comes to like the work output you drive. At the bigger places, you learn how to like be a blueprint of like a seller or like leading a brand partnership. Here I think we can be a little more like individual,
Hmm.
autonomous. I definitely feel that. So it's been a great 2 months. I'm really looking forward to like having a full calendar year, next year to really like put a stamp on things. But
Right.
yeah, it's been a good place. Great people in there.
So how did it all start? Like when did let's go back to the kind of the beginning with the big techs. Like
Yeah.
how did the meta job come about? Like you just find it, job posting? Did you know somebody that recommended it? And like how did like the interview and all that stuff go? How were you feeling? All that. And
Yeah.
then kind of what did you really enjoy about it? And then ultimately what made you kind of transition to Google? I know that's a
Yeah. I
lot,
think
but just whatever.
no, it's a lot in terms of like years, but I think I can boil it down to a couple of things. So when I was in college, I majored in economics. Why I put myself through that hellish programming, I don't know, what I was thinking, but at least I did it when I was young and kind of naive and just grinded through it. But
Right.
Hmm.
I had every intention to go to law school when I was in undergrad. So that was, that's part of the decision for picking economics. The other reason for picking economics, and anybody in econ who's not like a literal economist now will tell you it's the best degree because it's like so ambiguous. Everyone's like, just kind of assumes it's hard. And it
Right.
is hard,
Yeah.
but nobody really knows what it means. And so it's kind of this fun little passport. You can kind of go into any industry, and there's obviously a lot of like mathematics behind it, but
Yeah, well, any places, any business's objective is to make money, and if your yeah degree is in economics, they're gonna be like, well, he could help in one way or another.
yeah, at some point, So I had every intention because my dad's done everything from like prosecution work to he was a defense attorney for years. And then like the last third of his career, he was on his own. He was a personal injury attorney. And so he owned his own practice. It made a ton of sense. Like I'm a junior, the name's already on the building. Um,
Right,
it just felt like it was going to be like a natural push into practicing law. And then I was working from my dad's office, like right after I graduated. And I really sat with him and I'm like, what do and at this point I hadn't done like LSAT prep and I haven't really thought about like law school. I'm like, what do you really do every day? You know, you obviously hear about like the case
This
management and
was you.
like meeting with clients.
You were sitting with and asking your dad this question, or just you were asking
Yeah,
yourself?
no, I'm literally asking my dad. I'm, with him at his office, kind of getting a lay of the land, like seeing how he navigates like the internal parts of his office, working with like his secretaries, his paralegals, and like getting cases ready. But I'm like, really, what are you filling up with like 40 hours a week? And he looks at me, he's like, man, it's a lot of time alone just reading and writing. And my pops always had this, I think, more natural, studious mindset. Like he likes to get in there and like, he's like an avid book reader. You can see like all obviously there's a shitload of books behind me, but he's
I thought you were
got
reading
this.
all those.
Hell no, those are for show, baby.
right.
Um, but like
I was
he's definitely
impressed.
like more of like a natural like academic. I think I'm more naturally like I think a lot of my like better qualities are more in like the social landscape. There's like building relationships, spending time with people.
You're a people person.
Yeah, I like to think so. People probably are so sick of me right now, but
Yeah, you should
he's
see the comments.
yeah, he's
But
like
no, I totally understand it. He sounds like he just wants to put his head down, get the work done,
mhm.
feel like he accomplished like a task, and you're more of, like you said, building some relationships,
A
like you
bullshitter.
talked
Yeah.
about in the previous episode too.
Yeah, so he was basically like, yeah, we, read and write and like build your case. And I was like, you know what? I don't know if this is for me. I was very
Yeah.
lucky because at that time, my sister she's 4 years older than me. She started to break into this like digital advertising world. And then she ended up meeting her now husband through work as well. So I saw what she was doing. She was doing a ton of like client entertainment. She's flying to like different cool cities, meeting with brands. Like, she's like, digital advertising is more than obviously just like the visual of the brand and like the ad experience. Like there's a lot of problem solving to it. And so that did speak to like things I really did like. I do like math. So like math has a certain order of operations. You're kind of like accomplishing steps along the way to solve like an ultimate problem. And as I started to uncover like what digital advertising actually was, that's kind of the genesis of what we do is like a client's going to come to us with some sort of problem. I either need to like increase my customer workload. I need to open new stores. I need to have, new products launching. We need to like drive sales. And like, you actually have this like fundamental economic challenge to solve. And you're
Right.
just doing so with like the visuals and obviously like the data, the creative, the messaging, like all of these things and components that go into digital advertising. So I was like, wait a minute, that seems cool. I ended up starting my first 5 years. So I kind of skipped it because I started out by way of AOL, which is like so classic. If that doesn't
Yeah.
age me, I don't know what does. But yeah, my first job ever, I was like an account manager, just like launching campaigns for very reputable brands, but doing so for AOL. And then Verizon acquired AOL. Verizon also acquired Yahoo. We became this like digital advertising conglomerate. And then, that's where I spent like my first 5 years, and really great place. Like I had awesome people. And I was like, all right, this is a career and like an industry I do want to spend my time in. It felt very natural right away. Um, I like the work, I like the people. So yeah, my first 5 years really like learning the ropes were at Verizon. What that did, that teed me up because those first 5 years, you obviously grow from like your introduction to the industry. But then I was like, all right, I'm ready to like be a lead seller, lead the partnerships for brands. And then I was super fortunate that Meta had an opportunity to hire for an account executive. So an AE, you're the quarterback point person for your brand relationship with that company. So that was kind of like the starting point, how I got into Meta.
Yeah.
And then really opened my eyes to like big tech. But yeah, it all started with the foundation of just trying to figure out what you want to do every day. And I think you can strip jobs down to like just the basics. Like I just wanted to spend more time with people.
Right.
And once that was like checked, and I was like, all right, this industry is going to be, it's going to very much so demand that like you're spending time with people and just doing that work. I was like, all right, this is it. So let's just see it through.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So what was that like in the beginning, working with a team? Like, did you have anyone that was directly over you, kind of mentoring you and showing you how to do things? And
Oh, yeah.
then when you got over to Meta, was like, how many people did you have under you in your team, kind of thing?
Mhm. Yeah, I think I was lucky because I had like my personal life. So I had my sister, my brother-in-law, who are obviously like they were having good success at their respective jobs. My sister's at Fox, my brother-in-law's at LinkedIn. So at home, I could learn these things and like look up to them. Again, they're 4 years older. So they were 4 years ahead. They could pretty much serve as like mentors for like, hey,
Yeah.
look out for this, and whether it was like, personal career growth, they're like, hey, look out for these things. These are the things you should pursue. These are the,
That had to be nice
Yeah.
because they're still fresh. They're ahead, but they're still fresh. It's not like,
totally.
you're somebody that has been out of the workforce, the classic, like, I saw a meme or something that it was said something like, my grandpa told me all I had to do was walk in there, look them in the eyes and shake their hand and the job will be yours, kind of thing. But and then it's just, the joke is like, yeah, but what does that really do for you anymore? But no, to have somebody that's only 4 years into the future had to be really valuable.
Yeah. And like, it's obviously like a pretty invaluable resource to have your sister show you the ropes, like she's freaking off the charts. Like she actually just got promoted to VP at Fox. Um, she's crushing her lane, and like she was just such a good person to look up to. So I was lucky that obviously I'm with her all the time. I spend time with her kids. Most weeks, most days, I see them often. So having that cheat sheet, man, that like being able to go to her and be like, all right, this is a problem I'm seeing. She's like, here's what I did 4 years ago to like overcome it, or here's the things I focused on to like really move forward. So yeah, I was super lucky to have that, like from a personal standpoint. But then at work, there's just like no shortage of good people in our industry too, who just look out. Like it's very cyclical. If you just think about like the basics of like kind of what a career progression looks like, it's like everyone starts out either an agency or publisher. Agencies do the buying on behalf of like a brand. They work with the publishers. They're sort of like the bridge between the two. You either start at an agency or start at a publisher, and you're mostly like an account manager, a campaign planner. You're just learning the basics, getting involved. And then the next step's generally like becoming a seller. Now, if people don't want to sell, there's a lot of people who don't like that type of work. They still like the industry, but they don't want to be like a frontline seller or like have to lead these partnerships. They generally go into like more of, a manager route. Maybe they're a director directing a team. So there's like just a ton of cool avenues. And then if we had more time in the world, you could break down like every little pocket you could work in. You could be in data, you could be in creative, you could be in like audience management, you could be in like partnership contracts, you can be in, I don't know, the finance arm. Like you can be in any part of this industry. It's really about picking your path. But yeah, in mine, it was always trying to become a seller. I just felt like I like the word seller. Not everyone does, but like you are selling obviously for like your own benefit, but like you're really selling a product that's going to help some brand out. And like at the end of the day, it's going to help a customer out, right? So like if you strip away, just like your personal goals and ambition, with selling, there's a lot of like actual problem solving that happens like in the economic floor for these brands too. So very interesting, but I had no shortage again of like just great people, my bosses, my managers, even people who weren't on my team, but they were of a position of, certain seniority over here. Generally speaking, most people want to help out because they started out too in the same level you started out at.
Yeah.
So the cyclicality of the industry is like really interesting. And then we always joke, like just in advertising as a whole, it's like, yes, it's this massive space, but there's still a fence around it. And like, as I'm getting older, I'm seeing the same people, or I'm seeing people who have worked with people I've become super close with, whether they're a client, they're a teammate I work with. It's a very like, again, I use the word like familial. It's a very familial type of industry. Like you're going to see the same people. You might work with somebody in like 2018, and then in 2026, they become your main client again. Right. So it's like, it's such a boomerang. You're going to see people again. And it just creates this like really fun world. It's like, it's not, it's massive, but again, you're going to see like repeat characters. People have helped you out in the past. You might help them out in the future, right? So it's like it's just a really cool experience, and you never really know what you're going to be up against. But pretty
Yeah,
fun.
it sounds like with how you are being a people person, that probably is perfect for what you do of that boomerang effect of, you build relationships with somebody in 2016 and talk with them, and then, they see you again and like, oh, it's Chuck. And, you already have that baseline. And especially if you have the good skills of the charisma and the talking and the building the relationships, it probably just works in your favor too, as well, to be able to
Yeah,
compound all that.
for sure. Because then, just like you're saying, you already have the foundation. So a lot of that legwork's gone again. Being at now, I'm at, again, Cargo's like private. It's just a different type of offering that I'm selling than I was at Meta and Google. But I do have the same impact because I'm like covering the Midwest territory. So a lot of the businesses I've already worked with, I already know people over there. So my outreach is less cold already.
Right.
It's a little bit warmer, and that makes the job a lot more fun. Obviously, you're like, oh, I remember this person. I worked with them 4 years ago. Can't wait to hit them up. And then you get to go to lunch, go to dinner, go to events together, and just, kind of like, it's like catching up with old friends.
Right.
You just get to do it all the time. Now,
Yeah.
it does work the opposite way too. Not
Right. Yeah.
everything goes great, and, not everyone might like you or like working with you. And it's something I think I'll always have to work on, but there are elements of like being self-conscious, right? You're like, oh, I worked on a project with this person. It didn't go great, or like there's areas I definitely fucked up, and like I'm sure they remember it. And so sometimes you have to like do a little bit of repair too, repair work when you have those people come back into your lives. But
Well, I'm
on the
sure it's
whole, I
tough.
think it's more of a positive thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's tough because as you're starting out, like you said, luckily you had that the mentorship, but I'm sure in that career field for a lot of people, they're nervous or they might make mistakes, and first impressions are huge, especially in the realm if it involves buying and selling and somebody's money's on the line or something like that. And
Mm-hmm.
if
Yeah,
you're
there's
kind
no
of nervous,
guidebook when
yeah,
you're having a conversation. Like if somebody's fucking pissed off or something, I'm sure it could jumble you up and you're not mess up your pitch or whatever.
right.
Oh
And
yeah.
then down the line that could cost you another, that person's like, I
Yeah.
remember that whole deal. And
Uh huh.
Yeah.
Yep. And then as everyone rises, like It's very similar, like what I would think, and like going back to like baseball days and stuff, like you're in some sort of league, right? Like you come up with your class and your draft class and whatever it might be, but like everyone's going to take all these alternate paths and different career routes, and but again, you're all part of like the same league. So yeah, it can be, there's challenges that come with that, but again, on the whole, I think it's like mostly a positive thing. You get to work with the
Yeah.
same people and do that. So
Dude, talk to us about what's like just the day to day. What is it like just going into the Meta
yeah.
building? Because we know for those listening, you work in Chicago,
Hmm.
or you did when you worked with them. It was the Chicago branch, but people hear different things and or talk about different things, and most of us have no idea what that world is like. And on one hand, you could think it's like all these people just like crouched over computers for 12 hours a
Hmm.
day and Zuckerberg's cracking the whip. Or there's
Yeah.
another way I've seen it portrayed in movies is everyone's like riding around on segways and there's like massage pods everywhere. It's like,
Yeah.
what is it like in there, or what's it like just going to work at a place
Yeah.
like that?
Zuck's always smoking a brisket on the
Yeah.
back patio.
Yeah. And he's just MMA fighting in the corner. Um,
Hey,
I
you.
guess like when I first was interviewing, I remember like they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna bring you in for an interview cycle, and like
Man, what were you
it.
thinking?
Well, on one hand, I'm thinking, fuck yeah, I was like, I could not wait to get out of my Verizon was amazing. It was a great 5 years, but like
Yeah, you're
in
looking for
that
the
fourth,
next
fifth
thing.
year, I was dying to get out because I was trying to break through and become a seller and kind of lead my own book of business. At that point, I was an account manager working under sellers, so I was doing like their campaign work. They'd go out and like sell a product in, and it was my job to like execute it and be more tactical. So I was trying to break through that wall, and so the Meta interview was that opportunity. So like, you're super nervous. You're just like,
Right.
this is something I want in my career. This is like, I'm ready for this change. If it doesn't work out, I'm going to be right back to like the same bullshit I'm going through.
You're right.
So there's that element of like, certainly fear going into it. But then I would say there was a more like overarching sense of just energy and like excitement
Excitement.
because I'm like, man, this is like, and at the time, Facebook, right? Like I was there for the rebrand, but I'm like, this is
Yeah.
Facebook. Like a
Yeah.
Yeah,
lot of
that's
people
true.
work really hard and spend a lot of time to try to get here. And I'm lucky to have this chance. So yeah, I again was like mostly excited for it. When I went over to the office for the first time, I mean, I was blown away. I was coming from like still a really fun environment. You're still in like an advertising ecosystem. So your offices are fun, your people are fun, you're doing happy hours, you're hanging out together. Like it's not a stuffy, buttoned up boardroom,
Yeah.
no matter where you are. But walking into the Facebook office for the first time, there's just a different energy. It was like much more youthful. You could tell they were ahead of the game when it came to like the advertising and tech revolution. When I joined their team, I think it was 2018
Hmm.
or 2019. I'm forgetting the exact year. But a really cool time. It's obviously pre-COVID, but there was all this excitement around Instagram was now part of the picture, and you obviously have like traditional Facebook, but like WhatsApp's this huge
Mm-hmm.
globally, like it's the number one used global product is WhatsApp. Like people are making calls and
What's that?
texts, like WhatsApp. But it was just an exciting space, and you walked in, and again, there was like that youthful energy, that tech energy, and I had to put together like a case study for my interview. So like they give you this fake business, it's like a shoe business, and they're like, all right, put together a plan of like how you would improve this business, how you would start to grow revenues, how you'd use our products to do so, how you would use even things like profit and loss, and like what products are you going to push forth. Like you had to do all that assessment live in front of other people.
Damn.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, little intimidating, but what I came to find out was like everyone there, the culture was so good. It was such a learning culture and like a supportive one that they'd give you live feedback right in the room, be like, I don't know, I think you should actually, here's how we will think about it. So they'd give you like a live adjustment and then see if you could adjust. So
Right.
even as daunting as it wasn't like you had to nail it. It was more about showing up with the confidence, showing up with like
The
Seeing if you
willingness
get
to learn.
flustered or like
seeing
kind
if
of.
you get flustered, your composure. It goes back to like our high school math days, like just showing your work. It's like, all
Yeah.
right, you
Mm,
made this decision. stand by it and show us your work and why you made that decision. That was more respected than getting the right answer, right? It was more about how you showed up and like the confidence you carried. Man, I met great people in my interview who are still like all four of them are I'm like still super close with. But yeah, when I got that call, I got the
It was like a
offer. It was like,
panel. They're behind
yeah,
the table.
it was like a 4-person panel. But I remember it was such a stale week. It was like a Tuesday or Wednesday, and I get a call from the recruiter, and they're like, "All right, they made a decision on you. Like, do you have 5 minutes?" And I had to like scamper into this like phone room. And I remember at that point, I was like, I felt really good about it, but I was like, if this is a no, I'm going to be so crushed. If
Yeah.
this is a yes, I'm quitting today. And so again, I got really lucky. I got the offer. I did give the team till Friday. I notified my manager. I was like, this is just something I want to pursue. And it's been a great 5 years, but it's just time for a new chapter. And
Yeah.
so I kicked things off. That was a great day. Still one of my favorite days I've ever had was like getting that call. Because it felt, I think, I'm sure we've all felt this before, but like I'm still somebody who carries around, elements of being self-conscious and like you want to be like accepted by places and you want to have, when you're pushing for some type of goal or you're trying to get something done and like you're chasing that validation, right? And so I felt very validated at that point in time, and it was just a great day because I knew like, hey, all right, maybe I'm on the right path. Like I started to second guess myself a little bit less at that point in time. That's kind of how I put it.
That's awesome.
That's awesome, man. That's got to be that would be an incredible phone call, especially if you're ready to leave your former job and you have that pull towards something good. So how was it? What was it like getting started? Like you're walking in for your first week of work.
Yeah.
Do you have dress up nice for it, or what are you supposed to wear?
You got to overdo it to start. That's always the rule, right?
No jean shorts.
Put on a nice bow tie.
I put on my best. Yeah, put on my best Dago tee and got to work. No, you definitely overdo it when you come to dress, and then obviously by day 2, you're lining up with how everyone's showing up to work. But they send you some Meta. What they do is like they take your hiring class. That's what they call it, and that's why it's like it feels very academic. You're hired in these like big giant waves. I think at the time, I could be way off, but they were hiring 100, 150 people a week.
Oh, wow.
Just
or every 2 weeks. No, so this was like company wide. They had these
I was like,
gigantic waves of hires, and that could be anyone who's an engineer, again, somebody who works in like creative services, sellers, whatever it might be.
Segway repairman,
HR, Segway repairman. But you're hired in these waves, and I remember just the numbers. The sheer numbers would blow my mind, but it could be off by like the timing or like the number of people. But it was somewhere around 150 people, like every 2 weeks. They'd fly you out to the headquarters in California. You go to Menlo Park, and you show up. You go to HQ, and it's like adult Disneyland.
What?
So right away, you're like, this is fucking awesome. Like this campus it's in the middle of Menlo Park, which is like a swamp, but they found cheap land there, and they had to make all the agreements with the state of California. They're like, we're putting Facebook here. They had to work with like highway commissioner, Facebook and Google and all these big tech firms. They actually own bus services there. Part of the agreement with the state is to like help with transportation of people who work in non-tech. So like people in that area can take Facebook, Google buses that have Wi-Fi and like comfortable seating. They can take those buses because it's just part of an agreement to bring in that many people into a part of California that's like.
That's interesting. I've never heard about that before.
Pretty awesome. Yeah.
Get on the Facebook bus.
When they made the decision, they say, this is where we're going to put HQ. I mean, they understood what their growth trajectory was going to be. And so did the state. And they're like, you are about to like cause a massive riff in population and like just the way things work here. So you have to participate. Like you can be here, but you got to be like a law-abiding citizen, when they talk
team
about the
player.
company. So.
Dude, what are those VR things that
the Oculus?
Is it the Oculus?
Yeah.
What if they put those on the bus, like in every seat of the bus, and you put them on, and then you're on like the Hogwarts Express?
Yeah,
that'll work.
That'd be nice. Yeah, I was kind of blown away at like what the bus service looks like because there's like, you'll get on these buses, they have like working tables, obviously like charging stations, but like the buses have Wi-Fi because
A barista
You're
in there too?
no barista in there. But I mean, they make things just so comfortable because all those tech areas are about like an hour south of San Francisco. So you have a
Hmm.
lot of commuting from like San Francisco down and vice versa. So they just make it a good experience. But yeah, you fly to headquarters. It's like a 60 building campus. It is insane.
Whoa.
There's like, it's a full economy in there. I mean, it's like a town, you know, you have street signs on your campus. You have bikes. You have like, like free bike service. So you can just like pick up a bike and go to your buildings. There's restaurants, bars, there's things to do all inside of the Facebook campus. And so that's why
That's
we called it
crazy.
Adult Disney World, man. I mean, it was just
Yeah.
like something I've never seen in my life.
Head into the
But then,
office on a bike with a big cone of cotton candy.
yeah, but it'd be great, man. You're going to building 24, right? You have a meeting at building 26. So
That's where
maybe for me,
extraction
it's a
is.
short walk, but you'll see like an exec, get on a bike and like he's racing to do some meeting that's probably going to like, change the landscape
Yeah.
of modern technology, and he's just whipping around on his like free bike. So it was just like such a cool scene and something I'd never
That's wild.
experienced before.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. And then like, day to day, like I know Dave was joking about like all the incentives, but it's wild. Like your day start to finish is so like you just have these great privileges that make going to work every day just so much fun. And like you feel very respected as a person too. And it just breeds a great culture. Like you have free lunch, right? So like at these buildings, like if I just like showcase like the Chicago office, I mean, we'd go up to our cafeteria. It's a full floor. You have like all like the hot food items being served for that day. They'd send out a menu you could always look at. But then there's like salad bars, there's places to make sandwiches, there's a carving station. So you could do a salad, go get like tri-tip, sliced into your salad. There's ice cream, there's like a bakery. You're like, holy smokes.
Meanwhile, there's a guy right now locked in a Amazon warehouse with a double knee brace, double elbow brace. Fucking working.
Working 50 times harder than I've ever worked in my life.
No, but
And
I just thought that's a crazy thing. You see all over the news right now, all these strikes and everything going on with Amazon, and it's such a drastic. We're hearing on one end, a company that's making however much millions or billions of dollars, like Meta, and they're investing in their people and like treating them well. Amazon is probably making even more money, and they're treating everyone like shit.
yeah,
It's
I know.
madness.
Well, because they have a difficulty that like Meta just isn't going to have from like an economic standpoint. Like they have a full delivery business. They
Yeah.
have like
Yeah, it's like a full production floor. You
like
got
source
to
and procure. They
packaging.
just
Yeah.
have yeah.
Of course, definitely more like physical labor, and with that comes its challenges. But I don't know. I just was seeing that all over the news, all these big strikes at the warehouses right before the holiday.
hmm
They're fed
Yeah,
up
there's
with it.
nothing stopping a tri-tip trimming station though in the warehouse somewhere.
Right.
That's
That's
right.
what I'm
You never
saying.
know.
How
They
much
could have
like
one. They'll
couldn't
have
they
like a lamb leg on the spigot.
Yeah. It's
they
like when you
can't
go
throw in
to
something?
Texas Day Brazil, just every
Right.
couple hours somebody comes around with a big hunk of meat.
Yeah. A fogo de chao on the
Yeah, exactly.
yeah on the working floor. But yeah, I think like man, it does suck when you hear that because then you do feel a little bit like you almost feel a little bit ashamed because you're like, man, this is like I just know. And then even
No, I wouldn't. I
I'm
mean,
working with my agency partners. I know they're working 20 more hours a week than I am for way less pay, and they don't have these like incentives and stuff. So it does. I think if you're thinking about the right way, it does motivate you to work a little harder because you're getting all these like supporting incentives, and it'd be foolish to like slap it in the face by taking easy street. So like it does make you work harder. Like I definitely took my job more seriously because you're getting all these like great things, and you felt
yeah,
you needed to appreciate them.
I think that's a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and true. And there's nothing. Everybody starts at the same page. There's nothing stopping anybody from taking the same route that you did. Like you did all those things and set that path up for yourself, so you should be able to enjoy the things that come with the work that you put into it.
Yeah. But it was a fun experience. Now, on one hand, everyone was like, well, they feed you, so you're there longer. You're not leaving for lunch. You're not taking an hour and a half. And
Yeah.
stealing. But
I'd take that for a tri-tip.
but I was like, hey,
Dude, no
we'll
matter
take it.
what, it was the same thing in the military. Like, no matter how like good of a thing could be offered, there's always some group of guys in the back that are just bitching about it. Like,
Yeah.
and I'd imagine it'd be the same thing. Like, I have to sit here and eat all this food. Like, I want to leave the office and get lunch. Like,
Yeah.
there's always something that
Yeah.
Kill
people.
them to let us go to Chick-fil-A.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's always something people will find.
Totally.
You get comfortable quickly, and then people complain.
You
Yep.
do. You had to keep yourself humble. Like there was when you're at Facebook, is the internal work space that you're in, the platform is basically Facebook for business. It's just like it looks the same, it acts the same. You can like search people, make posts, do all that. But it's for work. So people are posting like their project works or like there's a ton of problem solving you do. Like you go to that's the source. But you'd have all these different groups the same way you'd have like a group on Facebook that you follow. Maybe it's like, you follow Chicago Bears group and they're posting about the Bears all the time. There was one that was like drama. It was like the Facebook drama group.
Kind of
And
thing.
exactly like you're saying, Dave, like you got to keep yourself humble. Like there was a
Say-
thread in there. Somebody was bitching about should cherry tomatoes in the salad bar be sliced in half or kept whole? And then it's thousands of comments because the whole company can see it. And it's
I
like,
thought the drama was going to be like, hey, I saw Chuck from marketing come out of the bathroom without washing his hands. They're worried about the tomatoes. That is,
yeah. And that's where you'd have to take a step away and be like, we have so many good things. Like, we need to just shut up. We're really talking about, do we slice cherry tomatoes or not? Like, we need to all put our feet back on the fucking ground, get to work. Because then you'd have people in there going crazy. They're like, you're inept. You don't understand the choking hazards of a cherry tomato. And then somebody else is coming in.
inept.
Like, yeah. I mean, it was crazy.
Choking hazard.
Yeah. Yeah, they were talking about like the chokeability of cherry tomatoes. I'm like, you know what, guys? There's a lot of people who would be very happy to have a full or sliced cherry tomato. So let's shut up.
You're inept. Imagine posting something on there and just fucking hits you with that.
Yeah, it was wild.
That's crazy.
But a fun experience. Like it felt like it kind of felt like a fraternity or sorority, like that type of environment. Like,
but you mentioned kind of the youthful vibe, I think, or you said something along those lines. Is it? I guess now with all these companies have started to really be around for a while. I'm sure the average age is growing older, like with the company. But what would you? Is it still like generally pretty young crowd, or is there some old wise Facebook wizard in there somewhere?
Yeah. I think the reason it felt younger was they would hire positions of leadership. So like team managers or directors who were just generally younger. We're like legacy publishing companies, like maybe where I was coming from at Verizon or like Yahoo or one of your like programmatic trade desks. They might hire somebody who's in their like 40s to run the team and run the sales org, where like Facebook would or Google even would take a flyer on somebody who's 34, but they're pretty ahead. They've done great work for like the time they have been working. And like they would take, I wouldn't say like more risk, but they would take a shot on somebody younger to be in a position of leadership. And so like I think that naturally brought in like a youthful type of culture into these tech firms. It's just not seeing somebody for age and seeing them for their work truly and being like, all right, you're ready for this, regardless of like your experience in the industry. It's like, you're the right person to lead this team. That was a good breakthrough too. I think like a lot of frustrations, we probably all see them. I won't speak for every industry, but like age can be a very frustrating thing to have to deal with. Like if you feel like you should be higher up sooner and you've put in the great work, but you're just like abiding by the laws of time, that can be really frustrating and like, deflate some people. On the other hand, you have obviously industries that demand you should have experience. Like,
Sure.
I don't need Doogie Howser taking my tonsils out. I'd rather have like an experienced, surgeon or something like that. So it's not always going to be an applicable case, but that's really what the driving force was, is they put people in positions, even if they were younger, just because they were the right fit.
What was the impact of COVID on Facebook and how did that all go down or
Oh
where you
man.
were?
Well, that was crazy. So I had this insane trip planned. I was gonna have to be in New York like twice over the course of like 9 days.
Yeah.
I was gonna have to be in San Francisco and then I believe Austin, Texas. It was like just over 2.5 weeks, and I was basically gonna be like living at the airport and like in hotels for 2 weeks. That trip was coming up. I think it was like the first week of April.
Yeah.
And so we're getting to the end of March, and obviously all these like conversations around COVID are happening, and everything still seems super far fetched at this point. It felt like you were reading about something. You're like, this is never gonna like impact me, but it's interesting to follow. And then I got a call from my New York client who was like, yeah, we've had a little bit like of an outbreak at our offices, so they actually canceled on me. We're like, we're not going to do an in-person meeting. We're hearing from leadership. We're going to like shut down our guest visitor policy, even if they're a partner and a working client. They're like, we're doing no visits for like a month or like a couple weeks, whatever they decided. So I went to my boss and I was like, damn, they just canceled on me because of COVID. And my boss is the best guy in the world. I still talk to him every day. He's Colombian and he grew up in Colombia, but spent most of his time in Argentina. That's when he met his wife. He was a little more tuned in to like the global impact of COVID too at that time. So when I told him my business was canceled, he's like, Chuck, I think this is going to be kind of a real thing for a little bit.
Hmm.
We then heard from leadership to shut down all of our all of our travel, all of our like client business and stuff, and just like stay put. We were not sent home from the office yet. It was just like cancel all
Right.
travel. We're going to work from here. We'll catch up. So I had this like, again, this hellish travel schedule wiped, which I was like fired up about. I'm like, hell
Right.
yeah, for this COVID thing, man, it just saved me a tons of pains and aches. And man, I think it was like 2 days after that, we get an email from our director that's like, nobody come into the office for the next 2 weeks. So it went from this like really bizarre thing that we were reading about happening
Right.
in
Yeah.
other parts of the world to like, it's in your front door. You no longer can go to your office. And
Yeah. It's,
it just shut it all down.
there had to be so, like, I know it was a time when everyone was kind of scared, didn't know what was going on, but there had to be a good feeling, I bet, when you're just like, wait, 2 weeks, I don't have to go in. Like, I'll take that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think people were pumped all over the place about it.
Hell yeah. And like at that point in time, our industry still like working from home wasn't that weird, but you would do it once in a while.
Right.
Mhm.
You'd be like, hey, I'm just, it's a Friday. I am traveling later this afternoon or something, or I just need to catch up on stuff. Once in a while to work from home, like that wasn't strange. And our job is very accessible just with a laptop. So it wasn't like you were prohibited. I didn't
Right.
need to be in a lab or like all these things. At that point in time, you know, my whole career to that point was like I was in the office 5 days a week. Like
Yeah.
Mhm.
that was the routine. It didn't even seem that weird. To get sent home was a little weird. I'm like,
Yeah.
man, what am I going to do for 2 weeks working from home? I'm like, but to your point, Dave, I was like, you know what? Let's be real. I'll probably squeeze in a little more Xbox time, probably
Yeah,
sleep in a
man.
little more, don't have to commute. You know, it felt very like, oh, this is crazy. But like, we were excited about like kind of the relief, right? Of like,
Yeah, it's
there's
like
a couple things we're
a
going to go
snow
do.
day times
Yeah,
10, times 100.
exactly. Exactly. It was like adult snow day. But then I think the general anxiety started to creep in once
Mhm.
every place started to close down.
Mhm.
Once those 2 weeks were up, we get another email. Hey, we're doing this. We're extending this another 2 weeks. All of a sudden, you're like, shit, dude, this is like going to be a bigger challenge than we thought. And then I'll get the timing wrong, but man, I didn't go back to work till probably October or November of that year.
Man.
So something that started out with
That's
getting
wild.
getting lucky, not having to do like one leg of my travel circuit, to
Yeah,
then, you know,
just kept
uh,
going.
to then 7 months off of work where you're just working from home, and then obviously we're going through quarantine. I'm like locked into my high rise apartment, going nuts.
I'm about to say
Just
that must have been a massive challenge for you with how your personality is,
Yeah,
and
I want to
working, from home. Did
mm-hmm.
it feel? I mean, I'm sure
pacing
at first
around.
it was cool, but did it start to feel way more difficult to be engaged with the work and all that type of stuff when you were so separated from everybody
Yeah,
else.
absolutely. I mean, just like you were saying, like those first 2 weeks there was kind of a fun element to it. You're like, all
Yeah,
right, we're getting this like, snow day hiatus. And
Yeah.
after those 2 weeks were up, I'm like, this sucks, man. I'm
yeah,
like, I miss going to the office because again, you have all these incentives. You go to a place of work that's just fun, like start to finish. Like even if you're having the worst day of your life, you could look forward to lunch or you could look forward to like kicking it with your buddies in there. And
yeah.
we were all super
Hmm.
close. We were all friends, and it was a fun place to be, and so we wanted to be there. But instead, yeah, I'm waking up, moseying over to my workstation at home and logging in and trying to like keep up all these relationships virtually. It's just
Right.
not a sustainable way to be.
Putting cat ear filters on and stuff.
There was just so many stupid things that went on back then. Do you guys remember when you do like, I don't know if your families did this, but you do like all get together on Zoom at night, like during quarantine?
No, I didn't.
We,
Yeah,
it was
my
like, fuck
family's not
that.
the most technologically inclined with that.
That
Yeah.
became a huge thing, which was like, dude, the fucking worst. Like, we're all like, all right, it's 7 o'clock. Let's all get on and have like virtual happy hour. And you're like, guys, we're trying to like recreate this thing digitally. It's not the same. Let's just all fucking commiserate by ourselves. Let's get through this and grind through it. But I could not stand those.
Yeah, I
Drove me
can
crazy.
imagine,
Yeah.
man.
And then everyone's talking over each other. No one knows how to mute their
Yeah,
like
that
Zoom
that's what I'm
service.
thinking. Look at how many times with just doing three people on the podcast, we kind of end up cutting each other off, or it's like, you go ahead. But then you got 8 family members on there. Like, can you hear me?
Yeah, you got fucking Aunt Betty, who's the first time she's ever heard of Zoom or Google Meets, and there's not a shot she's working that thing right. And then she's got background noise. There's dogs barking. I mean, it sucked. It was brutal.
Dude,
Whole
what
time
was
the
it like?
camera
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. Or
can't
like,
see
I love
just
the
my
one
shit.
that's like,
forehead.
yeah, it's straight up their nose.
Yeah.
What was it like in the city though? Like neither one of us have
Yeah.
ever, like, I've never, me
Y'all
or
keep
Nick
going. I
have
gotta
not.
take a quick leak.
Pause there.
No, you can just keep it going. I mean, I can hear you. I'm just gonna take a quick leak.
Okay. Well, no, I'm curious about what that was like in the city, because what floor of the apartment when you were
Yeah.
living there was that?
That was
Like,
when I was in River North at the time. I was on like the 37th floor.
oh my gosh,
Um,
dude. How,
yeah.
how did people navigate the apartment building with all the 6 foot distancing and stuff? Was it because I gotta imagine the elevator would be a huge
Hmm.
point of friction, or how did you guys even get food and stuff like that in that?
Yeah. It was so we were super lucky because the building I was in, we had a Whole Foods at the bottom. Like it was
Mm,
connected to that just like city block. And so I could actually get into the Whole Foods from my inside of my building without like having to leave. There's like pedways and stuff like that. So like the grocery shopping aspect was fine, albeit still fucking insane because everyone's just like buying toilet paper and buying up all the stuff. So it was like chaos in there, but it was very accessible. And then you're doing a lot of DoorDash. You know, it was like I feel like the DoorDash, you'd like look forward to those times because it was like a break in the day almost. Because these days were so fucking long, and
yeah,
like you're just in a 1 bedroom in a high rise, on the 37th floor. It was a very eerie experience because it was so damn quiet. Like Chicago was a ghost town.
yeah.
You
Well,
could,
you're looking out at the city and there's just nothing moving.
there's no movement, there's no people outside, there's no cars. Like the car thing was so bizarre. There's
That's what
just
I
no
was
Yeah,
gonna
cars on the
say when
road.
I heard y'all talking about that. I was living in Charlottesville, which is a small city compared to Chicago, but it's right off of 29, which goes all the way up to DC, all the way down. So it's typically packed with people. And I remember
Yeah,
when this shit first happened, I was working at the hospital, so we would still have to go in, and it was always congested on the roads. And when it happened, I mean, I was like one of the only people on the road, and it was the craziest feeling to be on this massive road and maybe
yeah.
like one or two cars you see in your whole commute to the hospital. I'm like, what the heck is happening, man?
yeah.
So bizarre. Dude, I'm sure being in a hospital had to be a wild,
Well, it's
wild
crazy.
experience.
Like, So how it happened was, we had like a little TV that you could see, and it was the same concept. Like I'd hear about COVID, and it was kind of like this interesting thing, but I never even gave it the time of day. I was just like any other news story that kind of comes out about new avian flu cases broken out, and typically
Yeah.
tapers off, and you never hear about it again.
Ebola.
Yeah, and so then it started to get like all this stuff was happening, and it became real. And the crazy thing at the hospital, at least where I worked, was it was emptier than it's ever been. Like, so a lot of the times I worked in the emergency room.
Mhm.
A lot of people would come into the emergency room for things that they really is not an emergency, right? But they either wig themselves out or whatever the case.
Too
But
many edibles.
they were yeah, but they were worried. I think people were more worried that they were going to go to the hospital and get COVID. So if they didn't
Mhm.
have COVID, they weren't coming in. So there was
Mm.
like a good week or two when it all first happened. It was empty. Like you would have maybe one person who thought they had COVID would come in.
Mm.
They'd get screened and all this stuff, and then they would go. But it was the most surreal experience from an emergency room, which is typically madness, right? You don't know
Mhm.
who's going to come in the door. It could be something critical, or it could be, an edible. And then to go to to
That's
nothing.
mission critical, though. When
Yeah,
you're
for
when
them it
you're in
is.
that zone.
It's like, I'm telling you, brother, something's not right.
Grabbing you by the scruff of
Yeah,
the shirt. Help me.
that's so nuts.
Yeah, it's
We would
wild
go.
though. I like hearing people's just different experiences during that, because that just blows my mind. I imagine you standing there looking out your window butt naked, looking at an empty city.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly how it went too. Well, the first thing that goes is your wardrobe, right? Like, I'm wearing
Yeah.
jeans and like, chinos and things like that to work, and your button downs, and you're looking presentable for work. And then, 2 weeks into it, I'm taking all my calls in sweatshirts. I'm Donald Ducking it half of the time. You just
That's what I'm
reach
doing
this
right now.
you reach this like primeval type of movement, man. You're just like wearing the same stuff every day. Everything became like it was fucking Groundhog Day. Every day was the same.
Yeah.
You're trying to look for these breaks in the day, but yeah, we would do a lot of walks. I feel like the walking aspect in the city was a saving grace because again, you're in a one bedroom. We weren't in these places where we had like big backyards and places to like just spend time at your home outside. I did have a
Yeah.
balcony, so we do a lot of like, we do a lot of like dinners and eat lunch out there, and so you could do it. But the interesting thing walking, like you take like a street like Rush Street or Michigan Avenue and Clark and all these just major streets in the city, and there's no cars and there's no people, so you could walk the city of Chicago with just and just not run into people and not run into cars. You could walk like down Michigan Avenue if you wanted, or like Rush Street that's super popular. It's always congested with cars. You're walking down the middle of the street and like
That's
Wow.
you're just in this
crazy.
really bizarre yeah, it felt very like post-apocalyptic,
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. It's like
um
I Am Legend when he's walking to the store.
Yeah.
super eerie. And then
Just walking around with a
your
German
favorite
Shepherd.
restaurants are yeah, your favorite restaurants are closing down, and like you're
Making deals with the video mannequins. Get some
yeah,
social interaction.
it was so
Is that
freaking
Will
weird though.
Smith with a German Shepherd, or did I just take too many edibles?
Yeah, that's great. The one fun thing was like, I know, and like Chip, you might have saw this at the hospitals, but in the city, one thing that was pretty cool is obviously you have a ton of medical centers in the city. And I think shift change is generally 8 p.m. Am I totally making that up when it comes to
Yeah,
like a
well,
hospital? I know it
it
could be
was
different
7 where
cadences.
I was, but yeah, it's 12 hours, so it typically will go to either 7, 8, or 9, depending on the place.
Yeah. I can find some videos, but one thing that was awesome, like it was fun to buy into was, everyone's talking about like the necessary workforce, and most of that being like those working in the hospitals. And I have friends who are nurses, doctors who were like, it is a fucking circus every single day throughout COVID. And like they're putting in
Yeah,
long hours, they're working their ass off, and they're obviously in like the front line, at a scary time. And so, but
Yeah.
at 8 p.m. in the city, we'd always go to the balcony, and everybody would be like flipping their lights on and off, hitting pots and pans. It was like to recognize the workforce who was doing the shift changes at the hospital.
Wow.
And
that's pretty
the
sick.
city would be like roaring for like 10
Yeah.
minutes. And that was really bizarre because like you're walking down these major streets. There's no fucking cars, no people. But all of a sudden at 8 p.m., it's like a roar of, it was like being in a college football stadium or something.
Right.
Just for 10
Crazy,
minutes. You're
man.
like, all right,
Yeah.
people do exist out there. Everyone's just kind of locked away.
I
Yeah.
never heard
It's like a
That
about
was
little
pretty
that.
sick.
reminder that there's still
Hmm.
people in this city.
I never
Yeah.
heard about that, man. That's crazy.
Well, it was pretty sick. And like, obviously we're on 37. So,
Did you get
and
some
I was
good
looking north
screens
up
in?
through the city. Oh yeah. Because you had to find fun in like the
Yeah.
mundane
Yeah,
every
blow
day.
off some
So
steam.
like, I'd look forward to 8 p.m. just as much as everybody because I'm like, finally some fucking activity, you know?
I think it definitely did highlight the need for social interaction.
Yeah.
I think most people probably haven't been subjected to that. Like a lot of people got like a level of
Solitary.
isolation. Yeah. I mean, I had my son at the time. And so like I was already, I was pretty busy, but I could imagine, let's say like somebody just solo in somewhere like that, like, what do you even do with your time? And maybe they have a job that they can't do remote. So now they're just not even working. And so you have like
Hmm.
nothing to occupy your day. Dude, I mean,
And generally, like, when you're going to work every day and, a Thursday comes around, like people go to happy hour at 5 p.m.
yeah,
But like when you're working from home at COVID, all of a sudden 5 became 4:30. Then it became a 3:45. Then all of a
yeah,
sudden you're doing, I'll do Mimosa Friday.
right.
It was like
Yeah,
the rules were starting to get a little weird because when you don't have that like social structure, everyone's just trying to figure out how to get through every day.
Exactly.
yeah.
It was bizarre. It
And
was
some of
really
those
bizarre.
habits stuck around, brother.
Well, then on that point, like now, now my work life, it's so normal now to have people come in 3 days a week and then they work from home too now. Like that's just
Oh
something
yeah,
that's set in stone because of
little
COVID.
hybrid.
Yeah, that work from home definitely became a staple of a lot of places that if it was
Hmm.
able to do so, they would just, a lot of people preferred it. I don't know if I would, but they're,
Yeah, I
just for the
know.
sake of commutes, a lot of people just don't like commutes. If they have a long commute, it makes more sense for them to not do it.
Yeah, my mom likes it. Where she works, I think she does. It's like splits the week, maybe 2 days in the office, 3 days at home, or vice versa. But yeah, man, when it's especially up where you guys live, where there's 2 feet of snow on the ground, you could just open your laptop or scrape off your car and try to make it to the office and try to survive all the people sliding around on the ice. Like
Hmm.
I'd gladly just open up the laptop if you could
Yeah,
still get the same work done.
times like
Yeah.
that, it is, dude. I remember I worked about 45 minutes away and we had a bad snowstorm. One of the, not maybe not one of the worst, but it was this real heavy snow, probably like, a foot of snow. And I live, back, I'm in the woods, and my driveway out of where my house is literally flanked by trees on either side. And
Hmm.
I remember I had to get into work that day. And so I woke up, I looked out, I was like, whoa, it really came down. So I go to pull out of my driveway, and luckily I have a 4-wheel drive truck, or I would have never made it out. But I get to the top of my driveway, and then I have like this downhill that comes back up, and it's literally like 20 trees in front of it. And so I'm like, I go back to the house. I get the chainsaw and an axe, like taking trees out at 5 in the morning. It's freezing cold, moving them all. And it gets to the time where I'm like, all right, I'm going to be late at this point. I just cannot move all these in time. So I call my boss.
Yeah.
He's a good dude. And I'm like, hey, man, I'm probably not going to make it in on time. I was like, I'm clearing all these trees out of my driveway. And
Yeah.
he was like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, you sound cold in your voice. He's
Yeah.
like, don't worry about it today. He's like, I don't even think you could make it if you got out of your driveway. But it's
Yeah,
like, if the option was to just like not even pay attention to that and handle it when it got warm and bust open the laptop, I would have definitely taken that route.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's like good and bad, right? Like for obvious reasons, like you can get just more personal shit done. You could do your
Mm-hmm.
laundry at like an appropriate time and not have to save it all for Sunday, or like,
yeah,
um, you can be a little more mobile. You could travel. You could spend an extra day when you're traveling and
Yeah.
not feel as rushed. So there's like good and bad to it, but like it's always so much fun the days you get back to the office and it's like full bore and everyone's like active again. I'm like, we got to keep this around.
Yeah.
And selfishly, I need that around because I was a couple steps away from going full Looney Tunes, in
Yeah, I
2020.
think for that to be sustainable, if you were to be 100% remote, you would have to have a really strong personal
Yeah.
social circle of people that you hung out with. I think just to even make it manageable, because
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
you know, I I agree, man. It's like you get into work, and I have a couple good buddies at work, and it's like even if it's the worst day, that you still look forward to those types of times. And we go and have a bourbon every Wednesday after work. I look forward to that as like a staple in the week to go do
Right.
that thing and go hang out and talk either about what happened in the work day or what's coming up or just what everybody has going on.
Yeah. I mean, those things are super important. But yeah, because then I was doing wild shit. We were again that 5 o'clock bell probably turned into like probably by the end of it about 2:30. It
Yeah.
felt okay.
Yeah, you were sending a lot
Which
of
is funny.
questionable Snapchats out there.
That's right. The digital footprint got worse. But the other crazy thing, we were just talking about this, and I have a fun question for you guys at some point. But I was like, how are we going to pass this time at night? Because your day is so long, and you had to break it up. And so we got the good idea to like do every movie that had a sequel, a trilogy, some sort of like secondary movie to it or more.
Yeah.
And so, like the Jurassic Parks, the Harry Potters, the
Yeah.
everything, like anything that had more than one, we were doing movie thons, dude.
You
And
worked your way through all the
that
Shrek?
bought us a good. I know we opened up with Shrek today. I don't think Shrek ever made it, which was a huge miss.
We need another
Big man.
pandemic.
Yeah, we need another. Yeah, we need another bat to help us get to the Shrek days. But like,
It was a good
that
time for
that was
movies.
kind of a fun thing to do.
It's a good time for games too. If a little extra gaming time in the day.
Great time for games, actually, and that was like peak Warzone.
Yeah.
Like the first Warzone.
Yeah, that's when
We
it
were still
dropped.
playing Apex, Fortnite at the time. Like the gaming element was like perfect.
Yeah.
That might have been the best part of that whole operation.
And that's, I think, something that a lot of people don't, maybe people that don't play games don't understand from the gaming, is that there's also a social aspect to it as well, which is nice, of getting on
Yeah.
there and shooting the breeze with the boys,
Mm-hmm.
and playing a game is kind of it's a nice setting to do that in. That
Yeah. You
you
can't.
probably want to have a lot of conversations if you didn't have them over a game of Warzone sometimes.
You have to go play frisbee golf with a mask on or hop on some Warzone
Yeah, exactly.
to hang out
Your
with the
options are
guys.
limited.
Yeah, I feel like David. That's when we were starting to really kick it. Well, we probably started playing a little bit before that, but like I feel like COVID just brought in that like gaming became necessary.
Mm-hmm.
It went from like being a fun thing you're obviously doing to like it was a necessary thing because you did need some like human interaction.
Just kill time.
Just kill time and shoot the shit and like catch up with everybody. It's a good forum to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Xbox was a lifesaver at that point. The question I wanted to propose was,
Yeah.
we were just talking about this with
Nobody
a group of
asks
friends.
us any questions.
Yeah, so I just went to the Notre Dame Indiana college football playoff game on Friday,
Really?
which was awesome. Yeah, it was a cool atmosphere. I was pulling for Indiana. I've never been a big Notre Dame fan, and Notre Dame just cracked them. But like we took this bus service there and went to the game, and then took the same bus home. But we were like, if you could watch one movie again for the first time, what would it be? Because there's
That's a
so
good
many
one.
good. I feel like there's just so many good movies, and like we brought this to like my family. We were talking with everybody else. I just feel like it's a fun.
Mm.
Well, you
My
lead us
my
off.
dad jumped right out and was like Sixth Sense. Like
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
he went into that completely blind, and like the twist at the end really got him. So I don't know. I feel like it's a fun one. I've heard some good answers.
Lead us with yours while I stew on it for a second. What would yours be, Chuck?
Oh, man, this is one of the best worst movies ever. I think it's one of the best, but it's definitely it's got some cheesy elements to it. But if you've ever seen Inside Man with Denzel Washington,
I feel like I have.
I don't think I have.
There's like a bank robbery in New York, He's an interrogator.
I'm gonna write it down because we're starting to do like a weekly movie night
I'm gonna get to
Yeah.
watch it for my
where we
first
trade
time.
off. Like someone comes to the table with just maybe we'll pick something
Yeah.
new, maybe we'll pick like an old classic, but we're trying to I don't know throw
Yeah.
something into the mix while we're juggling babies. So I'm gonna write that down and we'll check it out.
Yeah, Inside Man's a great one. Jodie Foster's in it, but it's great. It's just a perfect movie, man. It's like a bank robbery. You have an interrogator. He's trying to get the hostages out safely. They're trying to figure out what they're there to rob. You see like the inside part with like obviously like the robbers like taking the hostages and their whole situation. Then you're looking at the outside in. They don't know what to do. They can't see inside the bank.
Yeah.
But
I have.
once you watch this movie and see like the end and how everything unfolds, you'll better understand why it would be the one I would want to watch again for the first time because the
Dude,
twist is sick.
I feel my movie memory got like kind of tainted from the military just because you would have these times as I've talked about it in previous episodes, but like being stuck on the ship for long periods of time, we would just burn through movies to pass the time at night or to help you fall asleep. And so I feel like there were so many movies I watched back to back, and then instead of like sitting there and thinking about the movie and remembering it, you're just kind of immediately on to the next movie or show.
Yeah.
And then it just fucks up. You don't remember what you watched, if that makes any sense.
For
But
sure.
I feel, as you're describing it, I feel like it's something I'll turn on and be like, oh yeah, I did watch this.
Yeah.
I got a good one. Mine would
Let's hear it.
be Shutter Island, I think, because
Perfect.
of the twist.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I remember,
Yeah.
and the reason I say it is because the impact it had when I found out like what was really going on in the movie was I feel like a lot of times I'm a pretty good judge of where the movie's going, right? And kind of what's happening. I felt like I had no clue what was going on. Like, I mean, it was still really good, but the twist at the end was really good. And I remember it's actually one of the only movies when like somebody says they haven't seen a movie and they're like looking for like a good kind of like a thriller, twist, I'll recommend it. And I get excited if they haven't seen it to see their reaction for the first time. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
See,
think I go with
you're chasing the first watch.
that.
That's a phenomenal pick. Like that's why the game is what it is because you have
Yeah,
movies like
it's a
Shutter
cool
Island.
question to ask, man. I never
Yeah.
even really
Interstellar
thought
came up for
about
me.
it.
That was another one I just rewatched. And
Oh, I've been wanting to rewatch that
What was it?
with McConaughey.
Oh,
Interstellar, yeah, like
dude, that is a great movie.
it's fucking unbelievable. I tend to like everything Christopher Nolan does.
Yeah,
Like all his movies going back to like Memento, and he's had his hand in some other just great ones. But um, dude, I rewatched that and I was like, this movie's sick.
it's
Like
so
just
good.
straight up, start to finish. It's
It,
just got everything.
it's so well done. The visuals are so cool. All the different things that happen throughout it, and like like one of my favorite scenes from that movie is where they go down to the water planet, and they like make that kind of like hairy escape, and he
Yeah,
comes up, and the dude's like, so old now, and he's like, we're
yeah,
only down there for however many minutes. He's like, well, up here it was like what, like 50 years or something.
yeah,
And like just to think
Yeah.
about, it's such a quick, not a quick scene, but then it goes on to the next thing. But you're sitting there thinking about like this 50 years just happened, in between these events. It was a really cool thing to put in there and to think about as the movie progressed. And then the ending, of course, is a
hmm
classic when it all comes full circle.
oh, yeah.
That's a great one, man. That's up there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a good watch.
Yeah.
I need to rewatch that soon.
What the hell would you do? See, like we just went through COVID, and like at least we had like you could get outside, you could play Xbox, you still had accessibility. If you're that guy sitting in the spacecraft waiting 40, 50 years for your buddies to come back, what the hell are you doing in there?
Yeah.
Thumb wrestling with yourself.
That dude would have been deep into madness.
Yeah.
40.
Hopefully you had a mushroom stash or something in there.
Yeah, that'd
Dude.
keep things interesting.
I mean, good Lord.
Yeah.
Playing Galaga.
But
Yeah,
Real
beating
life
Gallagher.
asteroids.
yeah.
Oh.
No, you'd have to be driven into madness.
What you got, Dave? You got a good one?
Yeah, I think so. And
Debbie Does Dallas.
this is something
My dad's favorite.
This movie is what I dream about, the podcast being able to provide and be the story of me and Chip. But have you guys seen Secondhand Lions?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Dude, you got to check it out.
Yeah, let me jot that down on the phone.
No, I can't. I don't want to spoil the ending for you guys.
All right,
But
don't. I'll take that note and I'll watch it. We'll circle back.
yeah,
I'm going to watch this tonight.
it's
Yeah,
an
I
older.
think I will too.
It's an older one, but it's
Robert
always
Duvall, Michael Caine.
yeah.
Dude, I'm a big Michael Caine fan.
The story. It's these both of the two old guys have this house like out in the middle of nowhere, and as the movie progresses, you start to find out they lived this crazy life in the past, and they accumulated like all this like wealth and gold and things like that, and so they're rich as fuck, but they don't act like it. But then eventually, as they're getting older, they start to spend all the money, and they have like this giant like yacht type thing like out on a pond on their land. But yeah, if for anyone listening that knows how the movie ends, that's how me and Chip are gonna go out once we turn this podcast into something.
Oh.
Me
You
too,
guys
man.
are
I'm stoked.
Dude, there's nothing better than
a
when you
great
have like a
movie.
good friend of yours is like, have you seen this movie? And you've never heard of it. Because now I'm like, all right, I'm fired up to see it.
No, it's
You know?
good.
Yeah.
This isn't some blog recommendation. This is coming from a filer.
Yeah, it's. I'm gonna have to rewatch it soon. It's a like I said, it's an older one, but it's a good story. And when I daydream about us having a facility for the podcast someday and having a little bit of land, and then us just fucking around with everyone that comes on the show, like the way these guys go out at the end is you'll get a kick out of it when you think about it.
Love
All
it.
right, I gotta watch it.
Love it.
But
What's going on for Christmas? I feel
Crimbus?
like
Yeah.
having the kids for you guys, that probably brings such a good element into in a Christmas season.
Yeah, you
Oh,
get
dude,
to
it's the
eat some
best part.
cookies.
Speaking of which, Merry Christmas to everybody. Merry early Christmas.
That's right.
Yeah,
But
I don't know if we'll get this out before Christmas, but we'll
it's
try.
questionable. We should.
Yeah,
I'll
we
work
got
on it a little bit in the next couple days. But
Yeah.
we're gonna keep things light. Typically on Christmas Eve, we go around and see the families. So
Nice.
we'll bring the kids around, and then they'll do the presents and stuff like that. And then Christmas morning, we spend at the house. Let my son open up the presents, and then give the baby her presents. Now, for the baby, it's really it's fun, but like
Yeah.
it
just
gets
about
really cool around like Jackson's age. He's 5 right now, so
Right.
he is stoked. Like he's been talking about Christmas for like the past month. He's been having fake phone calls with Santa, making sure that he's still on the nice list, and
Best.
who's on the other end of that call?
not a soul.
Uncle Remus.
And then I'll tell Santa that I'm on the naughty list or something to mess with me.
Yeah.
And but it's so much fun, man. Like the pure joy with kids, and and being blessed enough to be able to like get my son a bunch of cool things and watch all that kind of unfold. And like it's like the magic of childhood when you used to believe in Santa, if you did or didn't. But like it's a really really cool thing, and it's better as an adult to be a part of it, to see it unfold, especially with your kids. And I'm
Yeah.
sure, like Chuck, with your sister's kids, seeing them and their reactions. And there's
Yeah.
something in the air around like the
Yeah,
holidays that kids bring to kind of making everybody not so stuck in the adult way of thinking. Sometimes lets you kind of go back a little bit to remembering when things were that simple, and that everything's so wondrous for a kid. And I
Yeah.
think Christmas does a great job of bringing that to the forefront.
For sure.
Chuck, didn't you weren't you showing me you dressed up as the Grinch one year?
I did.
Or is that an
Yeah.
annual thing?
No, that so far it was a one-time drop, but my my nephew Teddy, his birthday, it's actually tomorrow. It's on the 23rd. So for better or worse, he's shoved up right against Christmas, but he went through, and he was like 3. He just like loved the Grinch. which is like was kind of impressive for a 3-year-old at the
Yeah.
time. But I think that animated movie had come out.
Yeah,
Maybe it
yeah,
was
it's a
one.
classic.
And he latched onto that, and I think that was his perception, right? It wasn't like the Jim Carrey one that like we all love,
He looks like
Scary.
a monster.
and it's a little fucking scary. So it's his third birthday. He has a Grinch themed third birthday. So I didn't tell anybody, and I scoured the internet and I found a literal like an adult sized Grinch costume that fit me, which at 6'8" is a pretty poised a tough challenge.
Yeah.
But I'm reading this review and I came across
Custom
one
order.
guy. He goes, I'm 6'6". My kids love the Grinch. This was the perfect costume. So I didn't tell anyone in the family. I ordered it to my house. Dude, this thing was outrageous. It's full green, puffy, big, hairy suit with like the Santa.
We'll throw a picture
Santa
up there.
Monocle. Yeah, we'll get a picture up there. I'll send it. But then the mask, dude, was like more like the movie.
Yeah.
Super freaky, man. Super freaky. But
Man.
you know, Teddy has, you know, we'll call it like it's like 15, 16 of his buddies all come over for his Grinch themed birthday party. And I called my sister from her garage because I got in the costume and I was like, all right, here's the deal. I bought this adult sized Grinch. I go, it's terrifying. Do you think I should still come in the house? Dude, without batting an eye, she goes, fuck yeah, come in here. She goes, we don't care. Like, she was like, I just cleared it with all the other parents. You know, if it scares some of them too bad, like this is too worth it. And so I was sneaking around the house, like putting my little fingers on the windows and stuff. And like, you could hear the whole house. Like, dude, it's like full of kids just screaming. They're like, it's the Grinch. And so I like busted in through the front door to just an absolute circus, dude. It was awesome.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So-
It's fun because like
Did anyone attack you?
So
Any
there
kids
was
get mad.
to my surprise, again, it's a third birthday party. They're all on board. They're like, it's the Grinch. We're taking photos, doing high fives. Like, I wasn't trying to scare them too bad. Only one kid was a little apprehensive. Probably the smartest of the crew was like, I don't like this guy. But yeah, dude, it was a complete success. But
Why does a Grinch
it's
smell like
fun.
whiskey?
Yeah, the Grinch smells like Marlboro Reds. What's going on? But like, dude, when you're an uncle, you can just do bullshit like that. It's the best.
That's
And
awesome.
Teddy loved it, man. So he was like, dude, my uncle's the Grinch because I did a face reveal. And they're like,
Yeah.
oh my God.
That's
Yeah, it was
awesome,
good.
man.
Yeah. But I feel like, the kids, we noticed that like when Isla, who's the oldest of the grandkids, like those 2-3 years, maybe 4, 5, whatever it might have been, where we're all just adults doing Christmas. It was still great. You're still like off work, you're enjoying each other's company, but like it wasn't the same as like when you're growing up and you have Christmas. So like
Right.
the grandkids have improved my Christmas like tenfold because they have so much goddamn fun.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, just like they got, they're sending their letters into Santa. They're doing the calls. They got that stupid elf thing they're doing now.
Oh, yeah, the elf on the shelf deal.
What a nightmare.
Yeah.
I'm glad I don't have kids right now because that alone would probably ruin fatherhood for me. But yeah, they bring a magic element for sure. The little ones.
Yeah, it's fun watching them have fun, man. It's like this.
Yeah. But Dave, you'll get there. It's too early for the magic for you.
Yeah, but like Nick was saying with his daughter, it's you still kind of go through the motions, and we're gonna start building the tradition because it is like you don't know what they're gonna remember or when. I think, have you looked into that stuff? Like, what's the earliest? I mean, I think my earliest memory is about like 5 years old.
Yeah, I
But
think when you gain consciousness,
Right.
I think it probably is around 5.
And then after that, all you're trying to do is lose it.
I think it is about 5.
But no, they say kids, they remember the feeling of things, so we're just building the routine, the tradition, and it's going to be great.
Nice. Yeah, I don't know. I always thought I was strange for not remembering more of like being, like 3. Because like I'm spending time with my nieces and nephews who are that age, and I'm like, you got to remember all this. But like as you get older, it is tough to remember when you're that age. So like,
yeah,
it's strange.
And I think it's different for everybody, really.
Yeah.
I probably don't. I think some of my first memories are 5, but like even then, like I think like probably like 6 or 7 is when I'd say I start to have like a steady stream of like I remember like a lot of events happening, and then
Mm-hmm.
from like 9 to 10 onwards, it's like almost vivid of a lot of the stuff, but still, it's like. And some days it's like easier to remember a lot of what happened, or if something happens that brings back a memory, like, oh yeah, this is like when I did that. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there's a lot of stuff that happens. It's actually, I think it's pretty impressive that your brain can even hold in all of that information. You know what I'm saying? If you think about how much shit you
Mine's
just get
leaking. I don't
exposed
know.
to in one day, and then you imagine that over the course of
Too
years and years
much.
and years and years and years to remember all that shit.
You're gonna send me into an existential crisis right now.
I know.
Now I feel like I'm on the water planet.
Somebody was driving to work. Somebody's driving to work fucking sweaty. Their palms are all sweaty, damn it.
Oh, that's true. You do remember like pockets. Like, yeah, when I was 5, I remember like my kindergarten teacher and like how the classroom
Yeah,
looked. But you don't remember your like day to day. You
right.
know,
I
I'm
couldn't
not
tell
like,
you
oh yeah,
lunch.
yeah, yeah. 1996, what a good year.
I don't much
Um,
remember my schedule
God,
back then.
I can't even remember what I did this year.
I know, and that's what it turns into. It's just so much busyness. But
Turns into madness. And then,
Hmm.
like we were saying earlier, you, s- you get in a bit of a midlife crisis and start a podcast.
that's right.
Love it.
I don't know, gentlemen. So I don't know. Do we?
You got to bounce, or
I don't got to bounce, but
you're not going to the old Busch Gardens anymore.
no, we're gonna go to her parents. Not at like any set time, really, but we're gonna go do Christmas cookies with the kids. That's really the only plan today.
What what's going down at Busch Gardens?
So they do. The reason we didn't go is
Is it
because
lot
it's
Christmas lights or?
yeah. Well, they do like a Christmas town. So like they
Oh,
have a Santa. They have like they put on like a bunch of live shows, Christmas themed
Williamsburg,
foods and
Virginia.
stuff. Yeah, it's down there in Williamsburg. But we were gonna go because also my son loves roller coasters, so it'd been like a win-win. We do a Christmas thing and then we get to ride rides. But it's gonna be the coldest day of the year with
What's it
Oh,
going to be? 58.
it's gonna be like 28 today. And I can see with the with the baby
yeah,
and my
that's
son like
that's
going on roller
tough.
coasters, probably gonna be miserable because how cold it is.
Yeah.
So not gonna have much fun doing that. And then we just worried about the baby getting too cold. So
Yeah,
we just decided Christmas cookies is probably a safe bet before we spend all the money, get down there, and fucking an hour in, everybody's freezing and wants to go back home.
Yeah. That's a good call, probably. Probably the
Yeah.
best call for the family unit.
Yeah.
yeah.
That place
Started
looks awesome, dude.
Dude,
I
it's
feel like
sick.
I've heard of it, but geographically speaking, I mean, it's not part of like I've never been. But
They do a Halloween thing too. The Halloween deal's sick. Like you go, they'll like open up some haunted houses. There'll be people like I'd say maybe 100 to 150 people, staff that are like dressed in like Halloween costumes and be going around
awesome.
doing all kinds of crazy shit, trying to scare you as you're walking around. They do all the lights and smoke
Yeah,
machines, and they do the same type of deal for Christmas. They go all out. It's cool as shit.
yeah, that's sweet. I do feel like maybe that's something I'll do in my older age. I feel like every time I end up going to like
Be a Halloween
um
character at Busch Gardens.
yeah, right. What's this Halloween you speak of? I think I might get involved. Um but like going to those like parks and stuff, like I don't know, like museums, attractions, like going to those parks, like they
Hmm.
always end up being a great time.
Yeah, and that's to be
Yeah,
real. My son is like the one that's got me back into doing it because he it's so much fun for him. And then I
Yeah.
get there and I fucking have a blast. You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
we would take him. There's an indoor water park that's about an hour away, and I took him probably like 4 or 5 times this year.
Yeah.
And it's just sick, man. Like, I act like a kid when I'm there with him and run around with him because one, that's what he wants me to do. And two, it's
Yeah.
fun just to, we go up. He's like, let's go down this slide. You run up there, go down the slide,
Yeah.
mess
yeah.
around in the water, get under the bucket and stuff. And it's like, It's fun, man.
Yeah, that sounds pretty sick, actually. And
Yeah,
I love a wave pool, man.
yeah,
I'll never outgrow that.
yeah. They had a cool. They actually like Busch Gardens. So the cool thing about Busch Gardens is connected to it. They have water park. It's Water Country USA. So if you go in the summer, you can get a dual ticket where you can go do all the amusement park rides, shoot over to Water Country, like go on the
Oh,
slides, go into the
Water
wave
country.
pool, come back. Like they're right next to each other, dude. That place is it's fun as hell.
Water Country USA, dude.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. So fired up.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, we'll do an on location.
Yeah, yeah, on location at Water Country.
That'd be great.
Yeah. I don't know. I definitely wanted to at least get into. We did have some questions from the Patreon, and we didn't get into it.
Yeah.
We didn't get into it
Is
last
there really
time.
questions?
Yeah. We've
Love it.
we've got some very very generous people trying to support the show, and there's they're able to submit questions when we found out we were having you the first time, but then we didn't really get into any of this stuff, so I just saved it.
You got them on your end?
Yeah, I
Right.
remember. Well, I was just going to do one of them. And the question was asked from one of our loyal followers, username Monkey Nuts, followed by a strange series of numbers. But he was basically just asking about, like, kind of what is the overall happiness of the people working in that field. And it kind of goes back to when I was joking around earlier about, some people might think of it as these people hunched over the computers, just trying to meet deadlines, like stressed the fuck out. But then
Yeah.
you also hear about kind of what you told us, where it's can be more of a relaxed, friendly, collaborative kind of culture. And so I don't know if you had any more to really answer about that. I know there's so many different departments and different jobs, like
Yeah,
within
for sure.
Facebook. Like it's kind of like for us when people you hear about the military, and it's like, yeah, there's like hundreds of jobs though. Nobody's experience is exactly the same as someone else's.
Hmm.
And I imagine it was the same in Facebook, where maybe there were some people kind of like sweating it out, trying to get some work done. Did you see any of that, or is everyone more so relaxed and enjoying it?
Yeah, I think similar to any place, you're going to see a wide range of like experiences, right? Some people get involved in the industry and they get burnt out because it's very demanding for your time. I think is the it's probably the biggest resource you have to put forth is just like a commitment to the amount of time. And I think that's why they do stack these incentives and like fun things at the office and try to do, you get like bonus days off and you get travel perks or something like that because you do have to have this like commitment to time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think generally speaking, yes, people are much more happy working there because when you could take a decision like
Sounds like it.
not having to put together lunch the night before, or like
Yeah.
meal prep for the week, and you can just lean into like what's going to be offered to you that day. Like that's a huge thing to take off someone's plate. I'm just
Definitely.
my own person, but like, dude, if I had kids,
Yeah, you're
you
trying
have
to
these other
slap a couple
demands.
PB&Js together at 5 in the
Yeah,
morning.
like a lot of people have other things in their life that take up so much responsibility that if work can
Hmm.
offer you something that is truly adds a benefit to you and takes something off your plate, like that's going to be huge. And like the ability to work from home for parents, people who have kids at home or whatever other like personal need they need to tend to, like the
Yeah,
flexibility alone, like that's just that totally raises the stakes and I think makes things more enjoyable. However, like again, I'm still working in like a sales environment. You're given a quota, you're given a goal, you're expected to perform, you're expected to grow.
some
It's
pressure.
not just about hitting 100%. Like you're trying to. We always joke as like a team. Like I'm always trying to aim for like 110%. Right? You don't want to just hit the mark. You want to grow it and like prove your value. And that takes a lot of time. Like there's some weekends I work start to finish over the weekend, and you're not even like really dedicating any of your weekend to relaxing or recharging. You're just trying to get ahead of the mountain of projects and deadlines that you have to tend to. It's a very deadline oriented business too.
Yeah.
Um, So something might be quick pace. It's a great opportunity. It's obviously like there's monetary incentive to it, but you might have to commit an entire night cancel plans of something else you wanted to do to get that done. So a lot of opportunity cost trade-off, but on the whole, I think it's these companies, because they're so at the forefront of the public eye, that they have to lead with services and things like every place has mental health awareness support staff. They have full departments. They have ways to if you are burnt out, ways to take leaves of absences and support you that way. So there's a ton of good resources, but it's demanding. And then, you're expected to travel. You're expected to leave your family or leave your home for a little bit to go get a job done in a different city and spend a night in a hotel. And I know for my sister and my brother-in-law, they're nomads, man. They're on planes every other day.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah, I
have
was
3
gonna.
kids at home. So
Oh yeah, that.
it adds a big challenge. It's not a stationary job. You have to constantly be on the move. And the other thing is you kind of have this responsibility socially too. When you show up or you're hosting a client event or you're taking people out, you got to be on.
Mm-hmm.
You can't show up and just be a dud and let the event speak for itself. You got to lead it. You got to make sure people are having fun. They're comfortable. They're enjoying themselves. So yeah, we might work a full work day and then have a happy hour and then a client dinner. You end up working 14, 15 hours that day.
Right.
Yeah, your social meter could get burnt out a little bit.
Totally. I absolutely now more than ever, will find myself on weekends, you know what? I'm going to be a recluse this weekend because I already gave it my all socially this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm tucking it in. I'm watching movies or I'm just going to stay back. That happens all the time. But
Working on some camos.
yeah, get on the camo grind. But then conversely, it's all about how you look at things and the perception too, because I've been able to go to restaurants I have no business being at, or,
Yeah.
might not be able to access, or you can do these fun events that you'd otherwise not be able to do because A, they're costly, or B, they're just I don't know, you need some sort of access to it. But so there's all these benefits. I think it's all about the perception, how you perceive it. It's a lot of opportunity cost, a lot of trade-off, but on the whole, man, I just think things have changed a lot. The workforce has spoken up. And it's funny we ended up talking about COVID because COVID brought out so much of that of all these things were taken away. There were so many limitations and people kind of fought back with what their demands were now re-entering the workforce again. It's I'm not just going to blindly commit to this thing. I have other things in life that are priorities or things I care about that I'm going to make, I'm going to approach them with rigor and I want to be there for them. And so I think it's been a good thing to go through this large socioeconomic challenge over the last few years. It's going to put us in a better position where work offers a little more freedom than I think in the past.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's interesting. There's good and bad, just like anything else, I think is how I'd wrap that one up.
Yeah, no, to me, it's so cool to hear because like you had touched on earlier, it's almost kind of like a small world. You start seeing a lot of the same faces, and you're the only person I know that works in that industry. So I had no idea kind of what just I always knew oh yeah, Chuck works at Facebook, but I didn't know what you were doing day to day. It's
you and me both.
It's interesting though, man. What so explain to us how it we know Facebook kind of acquired other companies and formed the rebranding, I guess you'd call it, under Meta.
Yeah.
But then how did Google come into the mix? Just explain that a little bit. How did you end up there?
Yeah. Yeah, the Facebook going from Facebook to Meta was really interesting, and it does connect well with Google because years before Facebook took the moniker, made the parent company Meta, Google did the same thing with Alphabet. And it's because these tech giants they get so big, and we might see the same thing happen with Tesla here soon. Because again, there's so many subsidiaries and other things that have branched off from just the electric car to so much more. You have robotics and you have all these things. So you'll probably see Tesla do the same thing, or they'll retain Tesla and make it the parent company. But the holding going through the rebrand was really interesting because Facebook was always kind of copying what Google did years before. And that's not true of like all their products and services that they offer. But for the most part, like when I started at Google, our kitchens and everything looked the exact same as Facebook's, because
Really?
Facebook emulated everything Google was doing, even from like the micro kitchens, they call them the same thing. The way you're like, uh, I don't know, just like the office setup, you can tell, like being at both companies, you can tell that like Facebook just learned a lot from what Google went through. The rebrand, we had like an initial like awkwardness because you're like, Meta, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
Fast forward a couple of years now, people never say Facebook anymore. They're always saying Meta. So it's obviously stuck. How'd I get into Google? I had a friend I worked with years before. This was back at Verizon. So again, we talk about like the cyclicality of the industry.
Mm-hmm.
He was running a sales team at Google, and he had reached out and he was like, we're looking for someone to join our team. When I was at Meta, I was only selling to financial services companies. So anything from like insurance, financial tech firms. So like the Coinbases, the Acorns, Opportunes of the world. That was cool because like digital currency was just showing up, crypto, all those things. But then we'd still work with like the big insurance brands, the banks, all that. Pal was like, yeah, this would be for food, beverage, and restaurants. So right away, you just see a little more fun in that.
Yeah.
Financial services was great, but it's like super regulated. I had to look out for a lot more than like my peers who worked in like retail sectors or whatever. I was like, you know what? Like going to work with like a Wendy's and McDonald's, like that shit is going to be so fun. And so when I was approached for that role, I obviously went through the interview process. Again, very similar.
Mm-hmm.
You have like a panel, they're testing your like business acumen, your work rigor, those things. When I got the job, I ended up working on like the Starbucks and Wendy's businesses. And man, you just see at the end of the day, I think the reason I went to Google was obviously it's Google. Like I think that's plainly the answer is anytime you have an opportunity to go to like the true leader in our industry and like get that experience and get that education on how things are run inside that walls, get a glimpse behind the scenes of like what Google truly represents.
Yeah.
It was just an incredible opportunity. So it'd be foolish to not take it. And then again, you're working with like, you're more brand focused. You're doing a lot more fun work than I was doing with financial services. Even like you're creative and stuff, slinging hamburgers and seeing Dave Thomas and talking to Starbucks about like their, new drinks they're building and getting to be a part of those like product deployments, like such a blast. But then, Google comes with like a crazy amount of complexity and the culture is just a little bit different than what you would see at a Facebook. They were a little more polished because they've been around longer. It was a little more formal, which is interesting. I don't think from the outside in, you see movies like The Internship and like you still had all the bells and whistles. You got all the colorful rooms and you got, again, great incentives and resources. But there was definitely an element of like formality that was just different when you went over there. And you're not just solving digital advertising challenges. You've now, because you're representing Google, now you're all of a sudden working with your like Google Cloud partners. You might be working on sustainability programs or like helping Wendy's improve drive-through times and the customer experience at their store locations. Like all of a sudden you're bringing Google Chrome in to talk about digital menu boards in Wendy's stores. Like your problem solving had to become like so wide.
How do you work
so that
on
was
that?
a big change.
Nick had to bounce, and man, I'm glad we got to have you back on. It's cool to hear about all these things, and we snuck this one in before the holidays, so we'll try to get it out there soon. But I think you're going to be, you might become a regular. You might become a fan favorite on the show. As we try to get our shit together and get more episodes out there.
Yeah.
And we appreciate it. I don't know if you have any closing thoughts or anything else on your mind. I suppose there was something I thought about throwing the tape or turning the chair back to you as the guest. Like if you were if you were starting a podcast and thinking about, because for us a little bit of the motivation behind this thing is thinking about people that have passed. They're no longer with us, that you would like, how cool would it be to see like a 3-hour conversation with so and so, and I don't know if you had any person like that in your life. Like who would you, if you could have that dream podcast, with a family member or a friend, somebody that was in your life that we can't anymore. Like, is there anyone that comes to mind? And let's hear a little bit about them.
Man, that's a great question.
But I know it's weird. I don't know how
you go 5 million ways with it.
I know, because we're also trying to wrap. I don't think it'll be a great closing question, because it might just open the door for 20 more minutes of talk.
Well, it kind of reminds me of actually, you know what? One of my good buddies did this with his dad, who unfortunately had passed like last year or 2 years ago. He set up a camera and he basically wrote all these questions down about his dad, and he literally interviewed him about his life.
Before his dad passed?
Before. Like, it was the most serendipitous fucking thing of all time.
Wow, man.
Like his pop was he was big in Vegas. Like, he was running a lot of like the hotel and casino circuits. Like, he was like a president of like these places. And then he's opened up he's big in hospitality regions. So he's opened up like a hotel in the Bahamas, and like really interesting person. And then his family has connections with like the NBA. And so Chase was like, yeah, on a whim, he was like, all of a sudden I was like, oh, I just don't know enough about like my own dad's story. And he was like, I literally set up a camera, wrote him questions. He's like, I kind of had to like pitch it to him a little bit. He thought it was like, he was like, yeah, I don't want to talk about myself that much, but he's like, I would just love to know it.
It's like, what are you? I didn't know my son was gay.
Yeah.
Some dads would just be like, what are you doing?
Yeah, he'd be like, this is so stupid. No, but his pop like did it, agreed to him. He's like, I think they only did like a couple hours in total, but that's crazy. His dad ended up passing. He's like, I don't know what drove me to do it, but he's like, it's the best thing I have now that I own.
Right.
He's like, I go back and watch it all the time now. Which is crazy. And then it reminds me of these gifts are going around right now where it's like, it's a book and it'll say like, hey mom, tell me your story, or hey dad, tell me your story. And they're pretty cool. You can like give them a booklet. It's like very guided. It's not like just an open journal. It's like ask them questions.
We got Lauren ordered those for us. Like
sick.
Yeah, it's like with having us having, the idea is they won't read this until like 20 years from now or something, or 20 or 30 years from now, whenever we give it to them. But it's like you're saying, just a guided journal, and like it's kind of fun to do, because then it makes me think back on just a lot of stuff you don't think about normally. And yeah, that's crazy.
It's a good so like this year's been like I could do 100 hours on just everything that's went on this year. But like one thing I did pick up that it's actually a good reminder, and now I'll hopefully think about it a little more, like with more discipline. But I started at one point earlier this year journaling, and then I did it pretty consistently throughout this year, and I've slowed over the past couple months, especially like starting up a new job and stuff.
Oh, sure.
But that's the best time to do it, is like when you're
doing like kind of free form,
like real quick.
You just
total
like,
free form.
Blank notebook kind of thing.
Yeah, I have like a notebook dedicated for it, and like it's something you don't worry about. You don't worry about like the format, the punctuation. Just get thoughts on paper.
Yeah,
it's pretty fun to read back and be like, oh, on this stretch of week, that's how I was feeling, or like it's definitely a good thing to do. And reason I started it was
came back from Mexico and can't stop shitting.
Like that would be great though. Can you imagine like my I don't know, like a grandson or a great grandson being like, damn, Lydia went to Mexico and dialed it up and he came back and was shitting his pants. Like, it'd be so funny.
Right. Yeah. Something. Exactly.
But my dad was he journaled for like a lot of his life. And I found one that was right before I was born. And he had a couple entries, and it was like, they didn't know if I was a boy or a girl, not scientifically, but literally they didn't have the information. And they were like, oh, if it's a boy, we're going to name him after me. It's going to be Charles Thomas Jakes Jr. If it's a girl, his name's going to be Kathleen. So like, because he took that time, I know what my like name would have been if I was a girl, So it's like, it's shit like that. Like if you just write it down, someone's going to find some value or fun in it.
Definitely. And now we have there's always been kind of things like that do get passed, maybe like newspaper clippings and things or old photos. But now it's crazy that we can just record for hours and who knows, and it might be out there forever.
Yeah, it's
It's a
sick.
crazy
Well,
concept.
that's why, like, to your original question, like what would you want to see in a dream pod? And it's like, I think you have so many answers for that. Like, there's obviously people in my family tree you'd love to like hear more about.
Sure.
But like when I'm thinking about when I'm going back and looking at like, the Nick and Dave Unplugged and looking at the roster sheet, like it would be fun to kind of have like instead of just having 2 boxes or 3 boxes where it's like me, you, and
Mhm.
Chip. God, like all those other guys I would love to spend time with like this and just hear straight from them and like have your box participate a little bit, but like
Yeah.
you can envision this thing with like 8 squares, 12 squares, and like it's a bunch of
Yeah.
people from all these different walks of life getting together. That'd be pretty fun too.
It'd get pretty rowdy. But
Oh, I'm sure.
like we were talking about earlier with the um like COVID Zoom. So-
Yeah.
but no, I like we have been kind of talking about that idea of maybe every now and then having like a more of a group appearance, whether it's guys, some of the boys back home or some of the military guys or whatever. But I mean, honestly, the main goal would be to just do it all in person.
Yeah.
Until put a weekend on the calendar, and you're coming out, spend a weekend for the podcast or something.
In the booth, baby.
It'd be a blast.
Yeah, that'd be fun. That'd be fun. Because I do feel like when you get different personalities all in one, and then the jokes start riffing, your topics are changing more frequently. It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I don't know, man. I've enjoyed doing this. I think at first when you first asked me to do it, I was a little like intimidated. I'm like, I think your first thought is always like, who the fuck wants to hear me say anything? And
There's
then
no pressure. There's nobody listening to this thing.
yeah, but then you get in there and you kind of have fun with it. Like I don't know, I've really enjoyed it. So I guess this is all just appreciation to you and Chip. Thanks for having me do it. Obviously, happy to get the second part done before holiday season, but would
Yeah.
love to be back. And yeah, I'm hoping this thing takes off for you because it's a really fun outlet and like good thing to do with some pals.
We'll have to send you like a trophy or a medal or something because you're officially the first Pete guest.
Yeah, there you go.
We got some planned with the other guys coming back on, but yeah, you're the first. So it's quite the accomplishment.
It's an honor, a true honor.
Yeah. But it was good to see you, brother. Good talking and catching up. And don't get any crazy ideas with that Grinch costume this year.
I know. Yeah, I might have to dust that thing off.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, dude. Happy holidays to Addie and Isla, especially.
Yeah, brother.
Give Laura my best too.
We'll talk to you soon.